Have you ever walked into a room and forgotten why you went there? Or struggled to remember someone's name even though you just spoke to them last week? Moments like these can feel frustrating and maybe even a little scary. You might start wondering whether your memory is just getting worse with age or if there's anything you could do to keep your mind sharp. The truth is, those moments are completely normal and they happen to everyone. But what's even more important to know is this: your brain, just like your body, can be strengthened and supported no matter how many candles are on your birthday cake. There's a myth that getting older automatically means losing mental sharpness, but that simply isn't true. While the brain does change with age, it also adapts, learns, and grows, especially when you give it the right kind of attention. Staying mentally active isn't about trying to memorize phone books or take college exams. It's about finding activities that engage your curiosity, challenge your thinking, and bring you joy in the process. And yes, joy is part of it. When you enjoy what you're doing, your brain lights up in ways that help preserve memory, improve focus, and even support emotional well-being. So what does that look like in real life? It often starts with inviting your brain to play. Yes, play. Games that stimulate the mind can be incredibly powerful when it comes to boosting memory and cognitive strength. And we're not talking about high-pressure competition or complex rules. Think about the last time you did a crossword puzzle, played a card game with friends, or challenged yourself with a brain teaser. That sense of focus, that feeling of just one more clue or I almost had it, is your brain stretching, strengthening, and building new pathways. One of the simplest and most satisfying ways to engage your brain is by doing puzzles. Crosswords are a favorite for many, not just because they tap into language and memory, but because they also make you think in creative ways. The beauty of a puzzle is that it invites you to stay present. You scan the clues, test possibilities, erase, rethink, and eventually land on the answer. That whole process activates several parts of the brain: logic, vocabulary, even short-term memory, all working together like a team. And the best part? There's no rush. You go at your own pace with no pressure to finish in one sitting. But it doesn't have to stop there. Word searches, Sudoku, and other logic-based games offer a different kind of challenge that still supports mental clarity. Each one nudges the brain into a state of alertness that feels good, like waking up a part of yourself that maybe hasn't been used in a while. And when you practice these games regularly, even for a few minutes each day, your mind begins to adapt. You start noticing patterns faster, recalling words more easily, and feeling more confident in your day-to-day mental sharpness. Beyond solo activities, there's something incredibly valuable about doing these brain-boosting tasks with others. A casual game night with friends, a weekly trivia session at the local community center, or even sharing a puzzle with a grandchild can create shared moments of joy and connection that are just as good for your brain as the activity itself. Social interaction stimulates different parts of the brain, especially those related to communication, emotional regulation, and empathy. When you combine that with a playful challenge, you're giving your brain a double benefit. Another beautiful way to support your mental clarity is by learning something new. Not something overwhelming or stressful, but something that makes you lean in with interest. Maybe you've always wanted to learn a few words in another language, try your hand at painting, or figure out how to play a new card game you saw online. When you open yourself to new knowledge, your brain responds like a sponge. It begins forming new connections, strengthening existing ones, and building up what scientists call cognitive reserve, essentially a buffer that helps protect the brain from decline over time. Trying new things also brings a sense of accomplishment. You may not master a new hobby overnight, but the process of exploring it lights up your brain in incredible ways. Even making a few mistakes along the way can be helpful. Your brain learns from challenge, from trial and error, and from pushing through unfamiliar territory. The more variety you bring into your mental routine, the more opportunities your brain has to stay agile and engaged. It's important to know that boosting memory and sharpening thinking doesn't have to be a chore. It can be something you look forward to, a part of your day that brings satisfaction and a sense of progress. You're not just keeping your brain busy. You're honoring your natural capacity to grow, adapt, and thrive, no matter your age. Every puzzle you try, every new word you learn, every friendly challenge you take on, they all add up to a healthier, stronger mind. And if you've ever told yourself it's too late to start, let this be your reminder that your brain is always listening, always learning, and always capable of surprising you. Whether you're brushing off the dust on a long-forgotten hobby or picking up something brand new, your brain is ready to meet you there. Sometimes the most effective way to sharpen your mind isn't by doing something traditionally labeled as mental exercise, but by paying close attention to the small decisions you make throughout the day. The brain thrives on novelty, challenge, and purpose, and it doesn't always need a textbook or a puzzle to stay active. One powerful way to support your mental clarity is through movement, especially movement that asks your body and brain to work together. Even something as simple as learning a new walking path in your neighborhood can activate your sense of orientation, visual awareness, and spatial memory. When your brain has to navigate something unfamiliar, it wakes up, and that alertness builds strength over time. Dancing, in particular, is a beautiful way to engage both memory and coordination. Learning a series of steps, keeping rhythm, and moving in time with music requires a kind of mental agility that sharpens more than just your physical balance. It engages your attention, timing, and recall in ways that feel joyful rather than forced. You might not think of dancing as brain training, but the benefits extend well beyond your legs and feet. Music also acts as a bridge between past and present. A familiar song can bring back moments from decades ago, drawing out long-lost memories with vivid clarity. That kind of recall strengthens your brain's ability to access information, while the emotional connection makes it even more powerful. Another area that deserves more attention is the role of attention itself. In today's world, it's easy to become distracted without even realizing it. You start a conversation and find your thoughts drifting halfway through. You pick up a book and read the same paragraph twice. These things can be frustrating, but they're also opportunities to strengthen your ability to focus. One helpful practice is simply slowing down. When you move more deliberately, when you give yourself permission to fully experience what you're doing, your brain begins to anchor itself more firmly in the present. Whether it's preparing a meal, watering your plants, or folding laundry, doing it with full awareness helps train your attention in quiet, lasting ways. Language can also be a valuable tool for mental clarity. Not just reading or writing, but speaking. Having conversations, telling stories, and explaining your thoughts out loud challenges your brain to organize ideas and recall words. This is especially helpful when you engage in discussions that spark curiosity, not debates or arguments, but genuine sharing. Talking about something new you learned, asking someone about their experiences, or even describing a favorite memory helps create connections across different areas of the brain. If you live alone or spend more time by yourself, speaking out loud to yourself, yes, even narrating your tasks can offer some of the same benefits. It's not about performing, it's about staying engaged. Another unexpected way to support memory is by revisiting tactile learning, using your hands to create or handle objects. The brain has a strong connection to touch, and activities that involve hand-eye coordination can activate regions that often go underused. Gardening, for instance, requires planning, timing, and sensory input all at once. You make choices about where to plant, how much water to use, and when to trim, all while staying connected to nature's rhythm. That connection, along with the satisfaction of watching something grow, feeds both your brain and your spirit. Crafts, too, are more than hobbies. They require concentration, memory, and often problem-solving. Whether you're threading a needle, shaping clay, or arranging pieces of a handmade card, your brain is constantly making adjustments. It's recalling patterns, adapting techniques, and refining movement. And with every finished piece, there's a reward, not just the final product, but the quiet pride of having created something. That emotional satisfaction reinforces learning and builds confidence, which in turn encourages you to keep challenging yourself. Even humor plays a role in cognitive health. Laughter involves multiple areas of the brain, from comprehension to emotional processing, and it creates a state of relaxation that actually helps the brain absorb and retain information better. Sharing jokes, watching something lighthearted, or recalling a funny story from the past can give your brain a kind of reset. It's like fresh air for the mind. It clears tension, restores perspective, and reminds you that thinking doesn't always have to be serious to be effective. And there's also value in reflection, the act of looking inward, not just backward. When you take time to think about what matters to you now, how your priorities have shifted, and what still brings you joy, you're engaging in deep, meaningful thought. This kind of reflection sharpens your self-awareness, which is a core part of cognitive function. It strengthens your understanding of who you are, and that understanding becomes a source of mental resilience. Even simple questions like, "What do I need today?" or "What would make this moment more enjoyable?" keep your mind active in ways that support overall clarity. Your brain is not a machine that slows down without hope. It's more like a garden. It needs attention, variety, and care. It responds to stimulation, to emotion, to activity. And it can thrive when you treat it not as something fading, but as something still growing. Sometimes the most meaningful things you could do for your mind don't involve learning something new at all. They involve remembering what already lives inside you. The brain is not only a processor of information, it's a keeper of your life stories. And the act of revisiting those stories, not just in your head but by sharing them, writing them down, or turning them into something creative, can have a remarkable effect on mental sharpness. Recalling the details of a day from decades ago, describing the sound of your childhood home, or reflecting on a lesson learned the hard way, these acts invite your memory to stretch. And with every detail you retrieve, you strengthen the pathways that make future recall easier. Telling your stories, especially to others, does more than stimulate memory. It affirms your place in the world. It reminds you that your experiences matter, and that kind of confidence becomes fuel for your brain. You may not always remember where you put your keys or why you walked into a room, but you do carry an entire lifetime of knowledge, and tapping into that knowledge exercises your mind in ways no puzzle ever could. When you talk to someone younger, a grandchild, a neighbor, even a friend, and they listen closely as you describe a moment from your past, your brain engages fully. Not just to recall facts, but to organize thoughts, sequence events, and choose words that make your memories come alive. Equally powerful is the practice of curiosity. Not curiosity for the sake of finding answers, but for the joy of wondering. Asking questions like, how does this work? Or what would happen if I tried this a different way? Keeps the brain alert. Curiosity isn't just about facts, it's about exploration. And when you maintain a sense of openness, the world becomes a place that still has surprises. That excitement, even if small, keeps your mind engaged in a way that naturally strengthens attention, problem solving, and creativity. Your brain also responds strongly to patterns, especially when it's invited to look at them differently. If you've ever rearranged a room or changed the order of your daily tasks, you might have noticed how your mind becomes more aware. There's a reason for that. When things are done the same way every day, the brain shifts into autopilot. But when you make small changes, like brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand or sitting in a different chair at the dinner table, your mind has to reorient. That reorientation sharpens your senses and strengthens your ability to adapt. Even your connection to time, how you experience the passing of it, has an impact on mental clarity. As routines become familiar, days can start to blur together. And when every day feels the same, it's harder for the brain to distinguish one from the next. Creating moments that stand out, even in small ways, can bring more shape to your week and keep your memory active. You might decide to make one evening each week a little different, perhaps by preparing a meal you've never tried before, or listening to music from a place you've never visited. These unique touches make your mind take notice, and that noticing helps anchor experiences in memory. Being in nature can also serve as nourishment for the brain. Watching birds move through the trees, listening to the wind as it passes through leaves, or simply feeling the texture of bark beneath your hand, these sensory details ground you in the present. That grounding, while gentle, activates parts of your brain responsible for observation and awareness. There's a kind of mental stillness that comes from being outside, and in that stillness, your brain has the space to process, reflect, and recharge. Even something as simple as a walk becomes an opportunity to engage your mind. Not by walking with headphones or a to-do list running through your head, but by walking with attention. Noticing the way the light hits the sidewalk, counting how many types of flowers you pass, or focusing on the rhythm of your steps. These mindful movements turn an everyday activity into a brain-boosting experience without requiring anything extra. Another pathway to mental strength comes from practicing imagination. Adults often forget to imagine, thinking of it as something reserved for children. But picturing yourself in a new place, envisioning how you'd redesign a room, or daydreaming about a conversation you might have with someone famous, these acts of imagination activate different parts of the brain than memory or logic. They spark creativity and allow your mind to roam freely. That freedom strengthens the brain's ability to form connections, adapt to change, and generate new ideas. Sometimes the key to supporting brain health is not about doing more, but about doing differently. You don't need more pressure, more tasks, or more responsibility. What your brain needs is freshness, interest, and care. It thrives on diversity, on moments that require just enough effort to keep it moving, but not so much that it becomes overwhelmed. It doesn't need to be pushed. It needs to be engaged. And the beauty of that is engagement can look like so many things: a new way of thinking, a meaningful conversation, a walk in the sun, or even the simple joy of remembering a song lyric from your youth. You have all the tools within you. Your brain is not tired of learning. It's waiting for your attention, your creativity, your kindness. When you give it those things, even in small doses, it responds, not always instantly, but always faithfully. The process of sharpening your mind, especially later in life, isn't about chasing perfection. It's about rediscovering the ways your brain still shines when it's invited to do what it loves. There's something powerful about the way your brain responds to purpose. Not obligation, not pressure, but genuine personal purpose. The kind that makes you feel useful, engaged, and connected to something bigger than yourself. When you spend time doing something that feels meaningful, your brain becomes more alert. It begins to organize your thoughts with more clarity. Your memory becomes more active because your mind knows that what you're doing matters. That sense of purpose might come from helping a neighbor, mentoring someone younger, or simply planning something thoughtful for a friend. It's the act of being involved, of contributing, that stirs mental energy in a way no workbook or app ever could. Community involvement can also serve as a quiet but powerful boost for cognition, not in the form of big events or formal commitments, but through small, consistent interactions that ask you to stay mentally present. Joining a book club, helping organize a community garden, or volunteering for a cause you care about creates ongoing mental engagement. These experiences often involve remembering names, discussing ideas, planning steps, and working with others, all of which keep the brain flexible and responsive. It's not just about being social. It's about showing up in a way that requires your mind to stay active and involved in the world around you. Another layer of cognitive strength comes from adaptability, the ability to adjust when life changes direction. This might not sound like a brain exercise, but every time you navigate something unexpected, your mind makes new connections. That could be as simple as learning to use a new phone or figuring out a different route when your usual road is closed. Each time you adapt, even slightly, your brain rewires itself. These rewiring processes are what keep your thinking agile. They allow you to respond to challenges with more ease and confidence, rather than feeling stuck or overwhelmed. Rest also plays a crucial role in keeping your thinking sharp. But this kind of rest isn't about sleep or naps. It's about mental pauses throughout the day, moments when your brain gets to breathe. Sitting quietly for a few minutes without a task, letting your thoughts wander without needing to solve anything, creates a gentle recovery period for the mind. These pauses help reset attention and reduce the mental clutter that builds up as you go through your day. When your brain isn't always in response mode, it begins to function more efficiently. That efficiency shows up in small ways. You remember things more easily, you speak more clearly, and you think with a little more grace. There's also value in observing how your environment influences your clarity. A cluttered room can make your thoughts feel scattered, while a clean, organized space helps you focus. Even changing the lighting or opening a window can create a mental shift. Your surroundings speak quietly to your brain. A calm space says, "You can think clearly here." Rearranging a drawer or tidying a shelf is more than a chore. It's a way to create mental space. It's not about perfection, it's about creating conditions where your thoughts feel welcome. Color, shape, and texture can also be more mentally stimulating than most people realize. Looking at art, creating a collage, or even playing with fabric or craft supplies activates the brain's visual processing centers. These areas help with pattern recognition, visual memory, and spatial awareness. When you explore color and design, you're not just creating something with your hands. You're giving your brain a sensory playground. That kind of exploration strengthens connections that might otherwise remain idle. Technology, though sometimes intimidating, offers another unexpected path to cognitive growth. Trying out a new app, joining a video call, or even watching an online tutorial for something you've never tried before challenges the brain to stay curious and flexible. It's okay to feel unsure at first. That uncertainty is part of the process. Each time you take on a new digital task, you're developing problem-solving skills, expanding your mental repertoire, and building the kind of mental endurance that supports long-term brain health. One of the gentlest but most effective tools for memory is emotion. You remember what moves you. Whether it's a conversation that made you laugh, a story that brought tears to your eyes, or a moment that filled you with pride, those emotional experiences create strong memory imprints. You can intentionally invite more of them into your life by seeking out beauty, meaning, and connection. Listen to music that brings you peace. Watch films that stir something in you. Reflect on people who've shaped your life. These emotional anchors help keep memory alive in rich, nuanced ways that go far beyond names and dates. The more you create a life filled with reflection, challenge, and meaning, the more your mind rises to meet it. There is no expiration date on learning, on joy, or on growth. Your brain has not finished its journey. It still responds to wonder. It still loves a good question, a gentle challenge, or a fresh perspective. And when you treat your mind with care, when you trust in its capacity to adapt and thrive, it often rewards you with clarity, resilience, and a deeper sense of self. You've spent a lifetime gathering wisdom. Now you get to enjoy it, share it, and continue building on it in ways that keep your mind alive and bright. If this video gave you something to think about, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more ways to stay strong, sharp, and engaged, make sure to subscribe. We're building a space where aging doesn't mean slowing down. It means waking up to more of what really matters. Here's to a mind that stays curious, a memory that keeps reaching back and forward, and a life that feels just as full today as it ever has.